behind the glistening veneer of Hollywood's halcyon days, past the premieres with searchlights scanning the heavens, and away from the meticulously choreographed scenes that studios foisted onto the silver screen, lay another Hollywood, one of whispered secrets, guarded scandals, and truths so cataclysmic that even the biggest stars trembled in fear of exposure. It was an age in which morality clauses were inserted into studio contracts, in which executives held virtual royal prerogative over their stars, and in which even a whiff of scandal could ruin a career overnight. Of all the perils to which a star was exposed, none was more menacing than the presence of a child born out of wedlock. An illegitimate child was living proof of an affair, a fissure in the image of innocence and perfection carefully constructed by the studio system. These children were not merely hidden. They were erased, rewritten, disguised, or, in a few instances, driven into lives of silence and shadows. But for all the Herculean efforts of publicists, lawyers, doctors, and studio fixers, the tales of these clandestine love children endured. They resided in whispered gossip pages, in rumors spoken in Hollywood canteens, and in family secrets revealed after decades. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. One of the most well-known of these secret children was Judy Lewis, Clark Gable's daughter with Loretta Young. In 1935, Gable was Hollywood's unchallenged king, a hard-boiled romantic whose name promised box office enchantment. Loretta Young, on the other hand, developed a persona of a committed Catholic girl next door whose virtue was as integral to her sex appeal as her looks. When the two of them were paired in The Call of the Wild, they went to the snowy countryside of Washington to shoot on location. Off the studio's watchful eye, passion flared. At the conclusion of filming, Young was pregnant with Gable's child, a disaster in an age when scandal could kill careers overnight. Gable was married, which made the affair adulterous and Young's reputation for purity at risk of being destroyed. What ensued was a ruse so complicated it could have been contrived only in Hollywood. Young disappeared, citing exhaustion, and gave birth in secret. Months after that, she returned again, telling the media that she had adopted a baby girl she fell in love with in an orphanage. That was Judy Lewis, Loretta's real daughter, brought up to think that her mother merely adopted her. Everyone noticed the similarity. Judy inherited Gable's characteristic ears, which costumers attempted to hide using hats or hairstyles. Insiders referred to her as Hollywood's open secret. But Gable never publicly acknowledged the fact, and Loretta kept up the fiction until close to her death in 2000, when she finally confessed Judy's true parentage. Judy herself didn't discover the truth until she was an adult, telling of the burden of existing within a fabricated identity. It wasn't just that I was adopted, it was that my adoption was a cover-up for something no one was brave enough to talk about. Secrecy regarding Judy Lewis was not a one-off. Hollywood was a town that lived off confidentiality, and when confidentiality didn't work, money did. No stories exemplify this more than Charlie Chaplin's paternity scandal. Chaplin, the world's most celebrated comedian, became involved with actress Joan Barry during the early 1940s. When Barry gave birth to a girl, she alleged Chaplin's paternity. Chaplin maintained he wasn't, and blood tests corroborated his side of the story. But in a stunning turn of events, California law then enforced did not recognize blood test results in paternity cases. The courts adjudicated Chaplin to be the legal father, compelling him to pay child support for a girl he quite likely hadn't fathered. The case wasn't merely one of paternity, it was a case of punishing Chaplin for his politics, his philandering, and his disrespect for American conservative values. Already suspected of communist sympathies, Chaplin became a target. In 1952, during a foreign vacation, he found his U.S. re-entry visa revoked. America's clown prince was banished, a punishment as much scandalous as ideological. The irony is particularly biting. Whereas other stars slaved to keep their real children a secret, Chaplin was bound by law to a child who wasn't his at all. If Chaplin's scandal exposed Hollywood's readiness to penalize, The Errol Flynn story revealed its acceptance of excess as long as the box office took in. Flynn, flashing his grin and devil-may-care smile, was the face of adventure on screen in such films as Captain Blood and The Adventures of Robin Hood. In real life, he played by his own set of rules, and for the most part, they didn't apply. Flynn's sex and sail around the world lifestyle left behind not only movies, but whispers of hidden children on 3 continents. In Jamaica, where Flynn had an estate, people spoke in hushed tones of a child secretly maintained by Flynn's wealth. In Australia and some parts of Europe, other rumors emerged. Biographers assumed Flynn might have had several children he never acknowledged. His notorious trial in 1943 for statutory rape, although resulting in acquittal, solidified his public image as irresponsible, hazardous, and desire-driven. The expression in Like Flynn came into American parlance as an abbreviation of sexual conquest, but behind the bluster were actual lives, children raised in secret, their celebrity parent a mere rumor. All hidden children weren't the result of flings. Some were wrapped in protracted, complicated affairs. For decades, the relationship between Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn was Hollywood staple gossip. Tracy was a practicing Catholic who never divorced his wife, but maintained a 30-year relationship with Hepburn. Theirs was a deep but intimate relationship. They never did show up in public as a couple. One of the most intriguing rumors is that Hepburn carried Tracy's child in the late 1940s, vanishing from public view for months on the pretext of exhaustion. Under gossip from household staff, the child was secretly adopted out, the tie cut once and for all. With Tracy under religious constraints and Hepburn intensely reserved, such a step would have been tragic, but unavoidable. No evidence has ever been produced, but the tale exists because it conforms so well to the shape of their lives: a clandestine child, a buried secret under compulsion, and 2 icons who traded fact for survival in a disciplined age. The tales of other stars blur rumor and reality. Joan Crawford, for example, is most fondly remembered for her adopted children, immortalized for better or worse in Christina Crawford's Tell-All Mommy Dearest. But biographers whisper that Crawford might have had a child before she was a star when she was still Lucille Lesueur. Apparently, there was a sealed birth certificate which somehow disappeared. If it is true, the secret child stood in stark contrast to Crawford's later publicity-generated adoptions. In the same vein, MGM's glamorous sweater girl Lana Turner was dogged by ongoing rumors of an early pregnancy concealed behind studio fixers' doors, only to have subsequent motherhood tragically go public when teenage daughter Cheryl stabbed to death Lana's abusive boyfriend. For Turner, a secret child would have been her initial encounter with Hollywood's perilous meeting point of stardom and maternity, a prelude to the scandals that lay ahead. Some secrets are not so much about hiding as about sheer complication. Marlon Brando, for example, never feigned living a normal life. He openly confirmed many children, and yet, even at that, more were rumored, especially in Tahiti, where he had an island and sired children with native women. Some island families still insist on Brando blood, citing eerie similarities. Unlike Young or Gable, Brando's secrecy was not a matter of shielding an innocent reputation. It was a matter of the impossibility of keeping up with an erratic life stretched across continents and cultures. His admitted children quarreled over his estate following his death in 2004, while fresh claimants emerged, seeking acknowledgement. For Brando, reality continues to be fragmented, like pages of a script left uncompleted. Frank Sinatra was also followed by whispers about unrecognized children. Old Blue Eyes, the greatest crooner, was openly committed to his 3 children with his first wife, Nancy. However, rumors circulated of other kids born of his numerous affairs. Biographer Kitty Kelly went so far as to say Ava Gardner aborted Sinatra's baby under threat from MGM, fearing motherhood would destroy her sex symbol reputation. Other women said Sinatra secretly aided them while disavowing all connection publicly. Sinatra would not accept DNA testing, claiming his true family was already known to him. The tension is biting. The crooner who warbled about love and dedication might have shut out blood and flesh reminders of his less convenient loves. There is Rock Hudson, Hollywood's most skillfully fabricated fantasy. Tall, handsome, and promulgated as the perfect heterosexual leading man, Hudson lived his professional life in the closet, his private sexuality veiled until his AIDS-related death brought the truth to light. Some biographers, however, indicate that Hudson himself fathered a child as an adolescent prior to his redefinition as Rock Hudson through the direction of his agent Henry Wilson. If true, the boy was erased quietly. Once Hudson's career accelerated, offered, up to the icon of perfect masculinity that propelled him to stardom. The irony is biting. A man who had to keep his true self concealed might also have concealed the single heterosexual truth in his life. These tales, Judy Lewis's life struggle for acknowledgement, Chaplin's persecution, Flynn's trail of shadows, Hepburn and Tracy's potential sacred secret, Crawford's missing files, Turner's alleged hidden child, Brando's dispersed legacy, Sinatra's denials, and Hudson's buried contradiction all point to the same ultimate truth. Hollywood's golden era was founded not only on glamour, talent, and artistry, but on lies, deceits inked onto contracts, deceits published in fanzines, deceits mouthed to children who never knew their true parents. And yet, at the same time, something deeply human is here too. These were not only stars, they were human beings ensnared by a system that exacted perfection but punished humanity for its existence. They loved, they wanted, they erred, and their children paid the price. Some grew up in denial, others found out too late, and some still exist in the shadows, with faces that resonate across movie screens but names unknown to mankind. Hollywood's golden era promised viewers fairy tales, but the actual dramas played out behind the scenes. Love affairs, betrayals, secrets, and children kept in the dark. Children who should not have been born, but who are living reminders that truth always manages to live on, no matter how hard it is kept down.